What's up? My name's David Palmer and I go by the Leo King, and I wanted to make a video about becoming a spiritual leader and what that really means. In my opinion, my perception of a spiritual leader has changed over the course of being somebody who has done lectures and done a lot of personal one-on-one sessions for people. I really have put my life into being a spiritual person. I thought for a long time that being a spiritual leader meant being this bold, courageous leader that was like a warrior type of leader. On a whole nother note, maybe that's all my past life stuff speaking of the warrior stuff. But lately my perception of a spiritual leader has changed. That's because in my own life, as I was doing television shows, basically everything that you could dream of becoming a spiritual identity, getting the recognition, getting, everything together, having tens of thousands of people, support you, and, having the dream. I have come to a place to face all my own deep stuff. And I think being a spiritual leader is about the vulnerability that you are, that you're not afraid to expose. We always look at a spiritual leader as this unbreakable person, that they've got it figured out. And what I've noticed is that I don't think any of us have it figured out fully. I think that we all, especially if you look at how the universe works, we all have cycles that we go through. And it is impossible for one person on this planet to always be perfect, to never be breakable, to never be at a place where they fail. Like they're always perfect. That's like impossible. It's impossible. Now, I think that there are leaders that can be great, like Babe Ruth as a baseball player. We'll always remember him and his great moments of his life. And I think that's what it is. A spiritual leader is about the great moments that they have. And any leader, really. And I think that, it's about an accumulation of those moments. But for some reason in our society and in life and where things are, the other moments, the ones of facing great adversity, the one of facing your own deep vulnerabilities, is never associated with being a leader. I just had a colleague call me the other day to check up because lately I've been going through a lot of my own deep, vulnerable stuff in my life. And that's not easy, being a public personality and going through hell. That's not easy. And wanting to still push a message that helps people, yet not brand yourself as somebody who's just going through a hard time in their life or, whatever. Like it's a very hard position. And I think that it makes it very hard on me because the way that I view being a spiritual leader of the future is real. I don't think, especially when it comes to the President of the United States or the leader of any country, do we want these false notions anymore. I think it's important to, of course, be a leader and push your greatness and push that you have it figured out. It does set a kind of tone that everything's going to be okay. But, there's also the truth that we go through vulnerable times, that we go through that, and people are afraid to expose that. But going back to a colleague of mine who's in television saw my video or saw something about me and was asking if I was okay and kind of was saying, oh, you can't do that, And, that didn't sit with me well. maybe I am supposed to be known as the vulnerable spiritual person. And I think that who I've become lately is, I'm going through my own handicaps right now. I'm having my own blocks that I'm working through. And, I have really not figured them out yet. Now, that doesn't mean that I have not blocked my ability to still do great horoscopes or to help somebody in a session or to be able to still be a bright light to people in the world. But sometimes maybe that's the greatest challenge that I don't think that we ever try to overcome, even if you're not a spiritual leader or in ourselves, is how to still face your inner life and your deep, vulnerable spaces and still continue going through things and going through life and still pushing positivity to people in the world. It is not easy. It is not easy. And so I believe that a new spiritual leader, vulnerability and, well, I think being humbled is part of it. I thank God every day I've been humbled. And you can look at my past and see a whole different person, to be honest with you. I used to be a reality television personality. And I used to go for this persona that died. There's a part of me that has died. And I think I still go through the grieving process of that, and I have been humbled. But I've got a lot of blocks that I'm going through that make me a better leader. And I'm not afraid to tell people that. Or I don't need to give you the whole spiel, But in many ways I do this to let you know that nobody is perfect. And it's weird. I'm seeing this for the first time in my life. I'm seeing this split on the planet. Like people who are really opening up to their vulnerabilities and their truths and doing the deep work. And then another side of people who just don't even know what that term means or don't even know what that means and just staying on that. And I think that I'm speaking to the people who are going through the work, that know that this is a time of great spiritual growth and evolution and expansion. And that's where I'm trying to be the leader of. In the other world that's in our lives right now, of course I want to be a leader to help people, or I want to be just a person that helps people in that world. But we're at a crossroads in life because the new world that is being formed is completely different than the old world, and we're at this in-between space. I did a video called Light Reborn. You can look at it as I feel there is a new light being born. Dolores Cannon said it's a new earth being born. So did Eckhart Tolle. But I believe in this new earth, and I believe in this new earth that the leaders and the people who spread consciousness and spread information come from a humbled, vulnerable, deep space that are doing the work, that aren't masking the work, and that aren't trying to do it in a way that the mainstream world has done. And just doing it in your own way, and just being your own way, and being your own person, and that's where I kind of have come to in my life. In all honest truth, I've debated whether I just stop doing this completely, because I've gone through so much vulnerability doing this. And that's hard. It's hard on me. Building something so great and then debating if you're going to let it end. There's a part of me that just wants to go move to some middle of some other country and go live in the forest and just see what happens. I don't know why I'm at that space. I mean, if you want to go into my astrology, that's a whole other story, It's a whole other story. But I guess this is my message of vulnerability. My message of true humbling. I mean, it's gotten to a point to where, I can't even express my music the way I want to. I'm at a very vulnerable spot. Just trying to get enough energy to be able to get through each day, And that's my opinion about the new spiritual leaders, is sharing that vulnerability and deep truth is the power to enlighten. That truth, that not fakeness, allows for a deeper message that can change you. But we can't be changed through the fluff. We can't be changed through the presentation being a certain way. That the presentation, I think, allows us to, to get information in a great way that allows us to, see life in another way, in a positive. But there's a deeper, raw aspect that allows for the deeper truths and the deeper transformations to happen. And I think that that's where we're at right now in the world, is the deep truth and the fluff. And it's not like maybe the world would just split into two places. I think that we live in a world that you have to have both. And I think when you go through your deepest truth and you dig through your deepest stuff is when you can make your fluff the best ever. And to appreciate that fluff when you don't feel like you're going to fall through the clouds and hit a spike at the bottom through your heart and it's like sometimes we have to go through and dig in through a dungeon and to get out and appreciate the light more. Believe it or not, in a past life regression that I had done, that was one of my lives. I died in the darkness. I died by myself in a cottage in the middle of the woods, going insane. And I remember dying and looking out the door and seeing the great light. And knowing that in the future that there would be a time for light. And it was in the dark ages. That was a bad time. So, I also had somebody recently tell me that nobody wants to hear negative energy. Nobody wants to hear dark energy. Nobody wants to hear the truth. And you know what? That's very true. That's very true. Nobody wants to hear our problems. Nobody wants to hear when people have an issue. Everybody only wants to hear the best ever. And I agree. Who wants to hear that shit? But I think that there is a lot to learn from it. And I think that's what makes this a hard time, is that this is a time to learn. This is a time to grow. This is a time to dig through that stuff, Nobody wants to see the surgery on TV. Some people do. I remember my brother used to love it. I used to be like, when we lived together, I'm like, turn that off. I can't even look at it. And that's the deep truth of life. And I think that's where we're at. There's people not looking at it, and then there's people who are choosing that, even though I don't want to look at this, that there is power in looking at this. There is power in knowledge and understanding your deep stuff and looking at your own organs of soul and looking how that's going and cleaning it up and stitching it up and doing the surgery and doing the work. And I think that comes with great spiritual leaders. And I think that That's what comes with determining whether or not you are truly expressing a message that can change people. Because the fluff is good for when you're shopping and seeing the video at the store. Oh yeah. But the truth is something that I think we're moving into. I've done a lot of things recently with my research. And there's so much that's coming up with the truth of what happened to the ancients. Especially with being an astrologer, it's hard. I have deep Christian roots. My family's very Christian. I have extended family that's extremely, extremely Christian. And so, there's always an elephant in the room. Oh, the astrologer's here, but we love him, but is it right? Is he part of the devil? I know that's going through their heads. And, so I've done all my research in the Catholic Church and Christianity and why did it condemn astrology and how it has so many roots in astrology and why there's so much of astrology that's connected to Christianity. And of course, that helps me. But there are deep truths that nobody wants to see. It was told to you in the fluff. Whether the church told it to you, whether, something on TV told it to you. The deep stuff is not out there. The deep stuff is not out there. And 95%, or let's say maybe 85% of the people on there don't want to talk about the deep stuff or don't want to talk about the deep truth, don't want to look at the matrix and see that it's maybe real actually, Don't want to look at these deeper stuffs of life. And that's not an easy place to tread, because when you choose to go to the truth, that's when Neo in the Matrix throws up for a couple days and his body and his mind and his soul can't even handle it. And I think in many ways being a leader and spreading that truth to others and being a conduit of that truth comes with an extreme mental, emotional, vulnerable breakdown spot, because there's an excitement of delivering the truth. There's an excitement of the curiosity of seeing it. But when you wrap yourself so deep into it, and you are changed, there is an uncomfortable transition. So for anybody that chooses to keep going down the rabbit hole, that chooses to keep going into the truth, that's what happens. And most people, when they get to that door, don't go. In Saint Germain teachings, and in a lot of other kind of spiritual channel teachings, the only way to leave the karma of this earth is to go through that uncomfortable space. And so, in my opinion, when you go through that uncomfortable space, it's the same as birthing, how uncomfortable a birth is, to you growing into the right light, into the right place of where you're supposed to go. So that was my message that I brought for this week. They're kind of like my new theme, for my YouTubers and my app people. But I just wanted to speak of vulnerability, leadership, and truth. Thanks so much for all the support. I appreciate it. You can find all my information at theleoking.com or get my app on Apple and Android, The Leo King, or you can go to my website, leoking.lookstack.com for the subscription for more videos like this. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you soon.